Yo, what's going on guys, SpaceKong here. So in this video I'm going to be showing you my Maelstrom build. I call it the Dual Caster, being that because it has, well, its main spells are Flame and Storm. So yeah, and also it's going to proc a lot of damage with my Lambrus helmet. But I'll show you more about it later. These are my buff stats. So, first up we have the 40k Magicka, which I don't know if you already know this or not, but I think it works out, just over 1000 Magicka works out to be 100 spell damage. Yeah, so that's a true fact that most of you probably didn't know, but now you do. So yeah, 40k Max Magicka helps a lot, and then we've got 17.451k maximum health, which, you know, it's not the best maximum health, and I'll show you why later. You don't really need a lot of health. And 10k stamina. The stamina is basically so you can use one of your skills from the Sorcerer line to basically get your Magicka back. And you can use it for dodge rolls and like breaking free, you know, of CC effects. But here we go. Essentially we have like no recovery stats, but that's fine. We've got great resource management without them. As for the spell damage, yes, we've got 2.8k spell damage. Now it may not seem a lot to you, but the way the build works with all its dots and stuff is, yeah, essentially it's going to be more than enough. You can dish out a ton of damage. Like the DPS is unreal. You don't need any more spell damage than this. As for the spell critical, yeah, just over half, just over 50%. So just over half of your attacks are criticals, which is good because one of our skills is as soon as you land a critical, you heal yourself. Which having a load of AOE dots is going to be pretty much like a constant proc. Like whenever the proc resets, you'll be getting all their health back, which is awesome. As for resistance, yeah, I mean, the resistances are fairly nice for a PvP environment, you know. Obviously, this isn't going to be for PvP, this is, you know, solely for Maelstrom Arena and dungeons. But also, when we use this skill to get our... we use Bound Storm to get the resistance up that high anyway, but it also gives you Major Expedition, which is going to be fairly nice as well, so you can move around really quick, because in the Maelstrom Arena there's going to be a lot of attacks that actually slow you down, they slow down your movement by 70%, and yeah, if you'd have put Major Expedition up, then you're not going to notice much of a difference. You're going to still be a bit slower, but it's going to be bearable, so you can still dodge a lot of the AoE effects. These are stats without the Undaunted Metal passive, by the way. I will be getting that eventually, but it's going to take a little while. So that's something to work on in the future anyway. Okay, so let's have a look at the armour then. I'm going to start off with the jewellery first, as usual. I don't know why, it's just how I do it. But we're using 3-piece of the Willpower set in jewellery. So it's going to be Arcane, and it's going to have gold spell damage glyphs. And for the 2-piece gives us 1400 maximum magicka, and for the 3-piece gives us 186 spell damage, which is fairly simple, it's fairly easy to get as well. As for the armour itself, we're using Light Divines with the Magicka enchantment, the Twice Born Star, which gives us maximum health, maximum stamina, and maximum magicka. But it also gives you, for the 5-piece, a second Mundus Stone, which is awesome, because then you can have 2 Mundus Stones, and I'm going to get to that in a bit, why we need 2 Mundus Stones, and how it's going to work towards outputting a lot of damage. The armour's light, I'm using 5-piece light, and then I'm going to be using 1 heavy, 1 medium, but I don't actually have the Undaunted yet, so I'll get to that later. But we're using the Lambrus set. It is got the Magicka enchantment, Max Magicka. It's reinforced, I would like Divines, but for the first piece gives us Max Magicka again. And for the second piece, when you deal flame or shock damage, you have a 10% chance to summon a meteor shower of that type to deal 1600 damage to all enemies within 4 meters every 1 second for 5 seconds. Each can occur once every 8 seconds, which is awesome because you can pretty much, like, over half the time have that effect on. And you can have both the effects proc at the same time. Because we're using fire and thunder, we're going to be proccing both of these AoEs at the same time, and it's going to do a ton of damage. Another good point to mention is because you're doing PvE in the Veteran Maelstrom Arena, you can manipulate mobs very easily, so you can bring them all into the same space and then just unleash this AoE, and yeah, it's going to be a shitstorm. Yeah, so I want to get the Undaunted up to level 10 or level 9 or 10, whichever the max is, to essentially get the passive, so the Undaunted Metal. But I'm still working on that. So yeah, for the head and shoulders, I do have one heavy and one medium, so I can have 5-1-1. So we've got the medium shoulders, we've got the light armor, and then the heavy helmet, which is in divines because it's easier to get divine helmet than it is the shoulders, because the shoulders are by chance, whereas you can keep doing the helmets. For the Inferno staff, I'm using Torog's Pact. This is just a one-piece set at the moment because I want this to be a flame staff of the Veteran Maelstrom Arena. But it's taken a little bit of time, and my luck is very bad. I've got like about 1,000 Thunderstaffs and a couple of Restos, but I just don't seem to be getting any flame staffs, no matter how many times I do it. So I'm currently working on that, and I will have that, eventually. But that's what I'd use for best in slot. Next up, we have the Swords of the Torog's Pact. So this is going to be sharpened to give us more, spell penetration. I'm using the increased weapon and spell damage glyph, and then for the two-piece gives us 124 spell damage. I'm going to be using the same for the Flame Maelstrom Staff, but at the moment I'm quite desperate, so I'll take any enchant at the moment, or any trait. But for the second sword, I'm going to be using the deal magicka damage and restore magicka enchant. Now, I won't be using this a lot, but just in case you happen to get in trouble, then it's always there in case you need it. But I mean, chances are you probably won't need it because this build has a really great resource management. And for the food I'm using, I probably need to craft more. Yeah, I haven't got much left. I'm using a Mistral Banana Bunny Hash, which gives you over 5k maximum health and just under 5k maximum magicka for 1 hour, which is good because the health helps you survive, and the more magicka you have, the more damage you're going to be doing and the more resource you have. I'm using, I use quite a few potions. I use the Essence of Immovability, and I use just trash essence of magicka potions, and I use essence of spell power potions. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the best potion I'd say to probably use is maybe a tri-stat potion, because it gives you your stamina, health and magicka, and you can convert your stamina into magicka and health later on, so it's just like an extra heal. But it's up to you. It doesn't really matter at this point. I don't really need to use a lot of potions. I'm using 64 attribute points into the magicka. The reason for that is because, the more magicka, the more resource, the more damage, because your damage shield is also going to be bigger and it's going to save you. So these are my two Mundus Stones I'm using. I'm using a Thief, which increases your weapon and spell critical strike ratings by 3,350, which is, it's pretty awesome considering you're wearing all divines. Eventually I want to get gold armor and all gold glyphs, but, one thing at a time. For the second Mundus, I'm using the Shadow, which increases your critical damage done by 16%. So, together you're just going to do a truck ton of damage. Especially being an AoE build, you're going to hit a lot of crits, and you're going to hit very high crits, which is going to heal you a lot as well. Okay, so onto the skills. I'm using Crit Surge, which, again, it's a very, very key skill. We're going to need this. This is what I was talking about earlier. So, invoke Medira's name to gain major brutality. And yes, I know this is for the weapon damage, but the reason why I use Crit Surge is for the healing. You could use the other one if you're really confident, but if you want to just cruise through Maelstrom Arena easily, then definitely go for Crit Surge, because when you deal critical strike, it heals you for 3k health, and this can happen every 1 second, which is, it's going to proc a lot. Considering you've got a lot of crits and your AoEs, you're just going to have loads of AoE dots out there, like constantly. So you're basically going to be constantly healing yourself for 3k health every second. So yeah, it's going to be very hard to die, especially with all of your damage absorbing shields, which you're going to be putting up later on. Boundless Storm, this is going to be one of your buffs. So essentially what you're going to do, I mean, yeah, it's got a nice little damage where it gives you a AoE damage which follows you. It damages them for 921 shock damage every 1 second for 23 seconds, which is awesome because there's obviously more damage output. And while in this form, you gain major and minor. You gain major resolve and major ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5.2k. Which is, that's going to be very good and lots of survivability. And for 7.5 seconds you get Major Expedition, which is also good. Liquid Lightning. Basically, this is going to be to trigger off your Alhambra set with your AoEs. So yeah, you're going to basically create an AoE on the floor which deals nearly 3k shock damage to enemies every 1 second. Don't worry about the synergy, because you're not going to be in a dungeon if you're doing Maelstrom. I mean, if you do this in a dungeon, then it's going to do even more damage when people hit the synergy. But yeah, you're going to be doing nearly 3k shock damage to every enemy every 1 second around you. Next up, we have Inner Light. So the reason why I have this on is purely because when you have it slotted, your maximum magicka is increased by 5%, which means you get more damage. You also gain Major Prophecy, which increases your spell critical rating by 2.1k, nearly 2.2k, which is really, really good, because more damage and more magic you have, more survivability, more resource management, more damage. So yeah, why wouldn't you have this on? I have this on both bars, by the way. It's very, very key, and it works amazingly. So I highly recommend this. Next up, we have Dark Conversion. Basically, this is where you get your health and magicka back if if you run out of resources, essentially. It doesn't cost much. It costs just under 2,000 stamina, and you get 8k health and 4.6k magicka back, which is amazing. Okay, Energy Overload. This is your ultimate for nuking down bosses for single target. And it says that each light attack gives you nearly 17k shock damage. It's going to be a lot more than that when you're buffed up, and when you hit a crit, you're going to be hitting way over 32k, 34k. If you move the build around a bit, you can hit 40k if you change your monster set to Molokina, which is what I used to run. So you could do that, but you'll get less damage from mobs. Each attack deals 3% additional damage and restores 1.1k magicka. Amazing, because you're going to get resource back. So you can pretty much hold up your Hardened Ward the whole time. Okay, so this is on your overload bar. Hardened Ward, Streak. Okay, so basically the Hardened Ward is your shield. It's going to absorb a lot of damage. Sorry, I'm on Streak. I'll go back to Hardened Ward. Okay, so Hardened Ward, essentially you're going to be getting it says 16k damage shield, and it says you get an extra 33% damage for yourself, for your own shield. So you're basically going to be getting 22k damage shield, which is more health than you even have. So you're not going to be going down at all. And the fact that it only costs 2.4k magicka, and each overload hit gives you 1k magicka back. And on top of that, you've got your magicka recovery anyway, just under 1k. So it's not going to be costing much at all to hold this up. Streak. This is what I use to get out of situations. That's literally the only reason I use it. It's to get out of situations, and it also stuns enemies. So if you have a lot of mobs and you want to control them, if you're taking too much damage, just pop this, get to a safe place, and then I'll use your Dark Deal just to get some magicka back. Because obviously it stuns the enemies and does a little bit of damage, but it's mainly just to get somewhere safe really quick. But I wouldn't cast it a lot. I wouldn't spam it, because it costs, if you use it again within 4 seconds of using it before, it costs 50% more. Okay, next up we have Crit Surge. The reason why I have it on this bar as well is because when you're using your overload bar, you could be in this bar for a while because you have 500 ultimate. It used to be 1000, but they've nerfed it. But 500 is still really powerful, and you can use it a lot. So yeah, when you activate this, basically it also helps you get your healing as well. Crystal Fragments. Now, because you're going to be spamming shield a lot, you're going to be proccing your crystal fragments, which basically means if you look at your hands of your player, you'll be getting these crystal shards on your hands. This will happen, it has a 35% chance of happening, and then once you have that, it basically costs about 1.8k to use. It deals 20% more damage than it usually does, and it's a 35% chance to proc it, and it's an instant cast, so you don't have to stand there casting it. So this is definitely really good to have in your bar, because you're going to be spamming Hardened Ward, and then you can use this in between your light attacks when you're spamming a boss down. Dark Conversion. Once you get your Hardened Ward up, if you need more resources, then just hit that. It's fairly easy. Energy Overload, again, this is how you get out of that bar, but if you wanted, you could put a third ultimate on. But I wouldn't recommend that, because if you put a third ultimate on there, then you won't be able to get out of the bar without using an ultimate, which, it's up to you. But personally, I would just keep the Energy Overload ultimate on there, so you know you can get back out into your normal skill bars. Okay, let's go to the back bar. So the first skill again is Hardened Ward. I can't stress to you how much Hardened Ward helps this build a lot. You know, it's very important, very key. You're going to be spamming this a lot. It's a very cheap move, and it also procs crystal fragments. And you know, you won't go down. If you have this up, you will not be going down. You will survive. You can literally take anything, and I will be showing you that later on in the video. But yeah, essentially a 22k damage shield is what you will be getting out of this. Crushing Shock. The reason why I chose this morph, I mean, yeah, it's good because it does all 3 elemental damage, which essentially gives you a chance to proc both the Flame and the Thunder version of the Alhambra set. Not only that, it basically hits an enemy off balance. So when you're in the ice rink level and there's loads of trolls, and you know you have to run over to the platform and hit them, well, you don't need to. You can basically interrupt them with this, and the same goes for archers who want to, you know, when they enrage and give you the one-shot mechanic, you can literally throw them off balance with this. It's a very cheap skill to use, and you know it's very, very good. I wouldn't spam it because you know you can easily spam it, and it doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but it's good to get you out of those situations. Blockade of Fire. This is what you're going to be using to proc the fire part of your Alhambris monster set. So you got essentially giving you 1.8k flame damage to every enemy within, you know, the radius of it every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability, which is going to be, you know, they're going to be burning quite a lot, especially considering most of your attacks are fire. Well, half your attacks are fire. Crystal Fragments. It's the same as the Overload bar. Essentially, because you're going to be using Hardened Ward a lot, it's going to be proccing the Crystal Fragment proc, which essentially, you know, does a reduced cost. Well, it costs half, does 20% more damage, and you have a 35% chance to proc it, and it's an instant cast. So yeah, again, this is very good, and it saves on magicka and deals a shit ton of damage. It basically hits as strong as one of your Overload light attacks. Inner Light, as I said earlier, it's good to have this on pretty much every bar, because while Slotted gives you, you know, 5% extra magicka, and you gain Major Prophecy at all times. You don't need to touch this skill, you don't need to activate it, you know, not even for the Might of the Guild passive. You just don't need this skill at all. You don't need to use it. Just keep it on the bar. Yeah, you'll have a lot of magicka, because if you keep switching bars, you only have it on one bar, then your magicka is going to fluctuate, and then you're going to be losing magicka. As for the ultimate, now this is to take out mobs if you're in trouble, like your old shit button. Essentially, what you're going to be doing, you're going to have a 2-second cast time once you've used it, and then after that it's going to deal nearly 7k flame damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. It's just going to obliterate mobs, so I would definitely use this if you get overwhelmed, especially on the last map as well, when you're facing you know, the last boss on the Veteran Maelstrom Arena, and you know, say if you're running low on magicka, health and stamina, just pop this and it will obliterate everyone who's trying to attack you within a, you know, within a radius, obviously. But yeah, it's really, really good, and I would keep that on there definitely. Okay, so let's have a look at the champion points. So I have 80 into the Magician, which reduces magicka cost of spells by 14%. Now you could probably get away with 10, but I like to be extra careful and have the extra 4% on top of that, just because, you know, the better resource management you have, the more sustain you're going to have in VMA. Right, let's go through these passives real quickly. I'm not going to bother reading them out to you because you can read. Okay, so we have 73 points into Arcanist, which increases your magical recovery by 20.1%. Now you could put some into Mooncalf if you wanted, but it really doesn't make much of a difference. You could take the 4% reduced magical cost and then put it into Mooncalf just to get a bit of roll dodge going on, but then the more stamina you have, you know, you can get some more magicka and health back, so it's up to you totally, but this is what I go for. 47 into Tumbling. Now I might put more in this later on. It's very good for VMA, which reduces the stamina cost of dodge rolling and breaking free, which you're going to be using a lot in VMA. You know, let's face it, you're going to be doing a lot of dodge rolling. So it just helps you sustain a little bit more, so you don't burn through your stamina. Okay, 63 points into Elfborn, increasing your damage and healing done by spell criticals by 18.1%. So yeah, we need a lot of crits with that. Elemental Expert. Because you're going to be using the Alambris Mask and you're using 2 different types of elements, you might as well just have 20.1% extra. Spell Erosion. This is great for bosses. You know, increase the spell penetration by 3.5k, just so you can do more damage to the bosses, because bosses do have resistances as well. Spell Precision. You're definitely going to want this one. It's going to give you an extra 12% in your spell critical rating. And this is the only one I'm really going to sort of point out, because, you know, once you have that, then obviously you're going to be doing more damage, more crits, higher crits, and yeah, the more crits, the more heals, the more crits, the more damage. So yeah, you know, it's fairly self-explanatory. Okay, onto the warrior. So I have 60 into Hardy, which reduces poison, disease, and physical damage dealt to you by 17.5%, because you're going to be getting a lot of poison damage as well from the arena. In 2 of the arenas, 3 of the arenas actually, going to give you a lot of poison, and then physical damage is always going to be there. Elemental Defender, which reduces your flame, frost, and shock damage by 17.5%, because there's also going to be quite a lot of that. So you're going to be hitting a lot of the elements into the Veteran Maelstrom Arena. So it's good to just have a broad horizon of, you know, just so you can cover all of them. And it helps a lot, although it doesn't work with the spell shield that you have, you know, the hardened ward. That doesn't, you know, these points don't go to that, but once you've broken through the hardened ward, then it just gives you a little bit more defense. But, you know, feel free to play around with the points, you know, put, you know, as many as you want into whichever. This is just a guideline. This is what I use. I mean, I may change it around later on, but for now this works perfectly. So maybe if I change the build later on, I'll let you know, maybe with a 2.0 build. But I don't see that happening for quite a while, because this build is pretty solid. And I've been working on this build for, well, ages. Like, pretty much this is my first character that I've ever played on the EU server. Bastion, you're going to need 80 points into this. You could go more, you could go less, but, you know, the more Bastion you have, the better your damage shield is going to be. Actually, you know how I said that you have a 22k damage shield? It could probably be more, because I didn't include the Bastion into it, so it probably is a lot more. It probably is going to be, I don't know, around 25, 26k damage shield. I didn't actually include the Bastion into it, unless the Bastion's already on the skills applied already. If it says it's there, I don't know, but yeah. I mean, you don't really need more than 22k damage shield, but it helps anyway. But yeah, this is the first character I've ever used, and it's worked. I've been using this build for quite a while. Obviously, the Alambris was a fairly new armor piece to come out, so, and same with the willpower. But yeah, like, it works very well. This build, it's very solid. So when you're in dungeons or in VMA, just trying to like smash out some mobs, these are the sort of skills you want to use. First, you're going to buff up with your crit surge, and then your bound storm, and then use liquid lightning. Switch over, and then use your flame wall. Which essentially is going to proc your Alambris, and then after that you're going to proc Hardened Ward, and then if you get a Crystal Frag proc occasionally, proc that, and then rinse and repeat. So let me show you. I'm just going to do a pull here just to, you know, show you how much damage that this can take. Also, I've noticed that, you know, when you have your Hardened Ward up, getting hit with your Hardened Ward doesn't actually slow you down at all, you know, and when zombies hit you and you have the reduced movement speed. So it's always good to have Hardened Ward up constantly. It's very cheap to use. Okay, so I've pulled all the mobs. Right, Crit Surge, Bound Storm, Liquid Lightning, yep, Firewall, and then I pop an ultimate just because I have it, which is the Flame Destro. And look at all that damage. See, I'm just literally standing there doing a few light and heavy attacks whilst keeping my shields up. I didn't take any damage. I rinse and repeat. I do the same rotation again, pop an ultimate, shields up again. That's it. The mob's pretty much destroyed. And that's your rotation, because although you when you have your liquid lightning and then you have your elemental blockade up, those two skills are going to proc both the fire and the electric side of the Alambris mask, well, the monster set. And if you want, you can use the force shock, you know, the crushing shock, sorry. Obviously, I told you earlier the reason why I used that morph is to set them off balance for Maelstrom Arena. But if you're going in a dungeon, then you can use the other one. But essentially, it's like an extra chance to proc. So here's the boss over here. I'll show you the rotation which you will be using on the boss. So before you start the boss, same buffs apply, and the same dots also apply. But instead of using your Firestorm, you know, the Eye of the Storm, but basically the Flame Destro ultimate, not the lightning one. And then you're going to be instead of that, you're going to be using your Overload, which essentially is for single target DPS and to melt down the bosses. Now, it used to be that you could have 1,000 ultimate, and that's where this build was really, really good. But now they've changed it so you can only hold 500 ultimate. So yeah, and it's still pretty powerful. But you can take this boss down as slow as you want. Doesn't matter what boss it is, as long as you keep your hardened ward up. See, I'm literally just playing around with the boss. I can keep a hardened ward up. See, literally just run around, putting down your elemental blockade, liquid lightning. As long as you keep your shields up, and then you can keep your shields up, switch over to your front bar, and then you can just heal in between shields. See, shield up, and then I can use Dark Deal to get some magicka back, and you won't die. It's very, very easy. So you can literally just toy around, play with the boss. It's very easy. And the reason why I have Lightning Streak as well, see what I've done there, is I've stunned those mobs, which is it's fairly handy if you want to do a bit of crowd control, you know, if you're getting overwhelmed. But another thing as well, which is cheap, is you can always use your Crystal Frag procs just by spamming your shield. You can spam shield, Crystal Frag procs, and whilst you have the shield up, you can just use your conversion to get your magicka back. And then in between that, use your light and heavy attacks, which can also restore magicka. So essentially, when you're using your ultimate, you're just gaining magicka, and then you can switch back to your front bar and back bar. You can rinse all your magicka, all your stamina, switch back to your overload bar, fill it back up again. See, and I'm literally trying to kill this boss as slow as possible, just to show you how easy it is. I will be showing you some veteran Maelstrom Arena later, just to sort of show you like how much it can withstand. But obviously, I've chosen an easy boss for now, just so you know I can show you the setup essentially and how it works. So here we are. I'm showing you Set's Balcony for a reason. You know, I'm not. You know, it's a fairly easy one to do, but a lot of people do struggle with constantly taking damage, and they have to use the levers. But with this build, you just do not take much damage at all. As long as you keep your shields up, you can walk through the blades and take damage from the NPCs, you know, the monsters, the dwarven spiders. You can basically take damage from them, take damage from spinning blades, and see, I'm not losing much magicka at all. I can just keep this up. I mean, I may lose a little bit of health every now and then, but none at all, pretty much. And I can keep the shields up, and then keep using magicka conversion, and I'm not running out of resources at all, and I can just slowly melt down the mobs. If you want to go for a fast complete, you can definitely just, you know, burn all your magicka and stamina, and you know, have a massive output of damage. But you don't need to. This essentially can be a really lazy build. Just put down your dots, let the mask do all the, you know, the proc mask, let that do all the work, and you can keep your shields up, keep spamming your magicka conversion, and essentially just take down the mobs really, really easy. You know, just literally standing there, just taking hits from the blades. Nothing's going down at all. See, I'm managing to maintain a very, very high amount of magicka. So I'll show you. I'll skip ahead and show you the boss battle anyway. So we have 3 bosses, and essentially what you want to be doing is dragging them to each other, because you are an AOE build. You know, all your damage abilities are AOE, and rather than using your single target overload to melt down these bosses, you may as well use your elemental storm, because you'll be doing more damage, because you want to damage all 3 of them. And I know they have shields as well, but eventually you can get through the shields near the end, but they sort of switch more often. So here we go. I'm still taking damage from the bosses, and you know, bosses are supposed to hit hard anyway. And as well as having the blades, I'm still maintaining a fair amount of magicka. And if I wanted, I could just use magicka, you know, the magicka deal to get it back. And I've got max stamina still. I haven't used any stamina, although you will be using stamina later on. If you want to use a tri-stat potion, then that's probably the best potion to use for this build, but essentially you don't have to have it. See, I'm almost at full magicka again. I did not use much stamina. If you would have a potion, you could pretty much get full magicka, and then use a potion to get max stamina again, and then you'll be back to full. So again, putting down your AoEs, group them together, and then once they're together, spam your ultimate, not taking any damage at all, and they are literally just melting away. And this stage is all about, you know, just taking damage from the blades, and then you've got 3 Centurions, a lot of AoE, they've got their shields around them, which is also doing damage. So you pop your ultimate, there goes one, and then the others are going to fall. It's very easy, but I'm going to skip this ahead anyway. So, as for the Crushing Shock, I'll show you in this map why you need it. So see the troll? Okay, maybe next troll. But, I mean, I could show you the last rounds, you know, but there's no point, because the last round doesn't always apply to this build. I mean, yeah, you can do it easy with this build, but the reason why I'm showing you this map is because you can control mobs with your Crushing Shock. So, right. And also, this map proves that you can do a high amount of output damage. See, that troll's going to start smashing. Although before he starts smashing, I use Crushing Shock anyway. And it also puts the Alambris AoEs on him. So you don't have to worry about them. As soon as the AoEs are procced on them, you can literally turn around and go back to the mobs. So I've shown you in the previous part that you can do a slow, relaxed DPS and, you know, eventually melt down the bosses without losing any magicka or stamina. Well, you can do the same and have high output, but I mean, you know, you won't have unlimited magicka if you were to do high output. But so you just take out the troll. Now he's stunned. But yeah, so you can basically have a very, very high amount of output and burn down all your magicka as well, which is what you will need for this last part. So see, I don't have much magicka right now, but as soon as she tramples on the ice and destroys it, then I go pretty much really, like almost back up to full, and then I switch to my overload bar just to show you like how much you can melt down. See, so she's about to smash it any second now. There she goes. So I take out the troll, you know, as usual. You got to take out the troll, and then I get some magicka back. See, like, I mean, I could have gone to full if I wanted, but because I used my overload bar, I didn't need that much. I just needed enough just so I could spam at this point. So into the overload bar, you put your AoEs down, and then you can spam overload because you've got enough ultimate. 500 ultimate is more than enough to take down this boss. So I mean, yeah, you can't put the trolls off balance whilst in this, but you don't need to because you can literally two-shot them. And there we go. This boss is incredibly easy to destroy. I mean, you're hitting nearly 30k per overload. You could go even higher. This is without using my potions to buff me. I could go even higher. I could go about 34k, 35k. And if you have the Undaunted metal, you could go possibly to 36, 37k. You could get even higher if you use other sets, but this is the set I use for sustain. But anyway, that is all for now. If you have any questions, then please do ask in the comment section below. If you want to see a video of me completing the Vet Maelstrom Arena using this build, then I do have one on my channel currently, although it was very close, and I was using this build, and it looked sort of like I was struggling, but that wasn't anything to do with the build. It was because it was my first time doing the Vet Maelstrom Arena. I've done it like loads and loads of times since then. You know, once you know the mechanics and use this build, you can literally fly through Maelstrom incredibly fast and incredibly easy. And I will probably release a video on it later on. But yeah, on the video which I had before, it was my first attempt, so bear that in mind. And I was using this build for the first attempt as well. It was when I first sort of switched around and started using the Alambris. So yeah, bear that in mind. But I will be releasing maybe a guide on Vet Maelstrom Arena, or just show you a video of this build destroying Vet Maelstrom Arena. So. But yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this video and found it useful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always guys, have yourselves a great day. Peace!